will be able to get their first look. Joining us now is Democratic Senator Chris Coons from Delaware. He was part of the bipartisan effort, along with Jeff Flake of Arizona, to get this 5-day investigation. And Senator Coons joins us right now. Based on what you know, and I know you haven't seen the report, but I know you've seen all the journalism about what went into this report, is this what you were promised last Friday?
Well, John, over the last couple of days, there's been a fair amount of back and forth about what we asked for, what was promised, and now today we'll see what's delivered. There were press reports last Sunday morning that were very concerning to me, that the White House had a very narrow scope for this investigation, that they would only interview 4 witnesses. So I contacted my friends and colleagues on the committee. I contacted White House counsel. I sent a follow-up letter. And then after 2 more days of discussion, published an editorial. I think we should have, as President Trump said we would, an open week-long investigation by the FBI where they would be allowed to follow all investigatory leads on the credible allegations against Judge Kavanaugh. I'm concerned that if they never interviewed Dr. Christine Blasey Ford or her corroborating witnesses, if they never interviewed many of Judge Kavanaugh's classmates from Yale who came forward to be heard about the alleged incident with Debbie Ramirez, that this isn't the investigation I was hoping for, but I won't prejudge it. John, I haven't seen the report yet. That'll be in just a few hours.
We understand 9 people were interviewed, and that includes the people who were at the house, who were allegedly at the house, named by Professor Ford. Debbie Ramirez was also interviewed, and it may be a couple other people. Professor Ford was not interviewed. We now know that to be the case. So given that, do you feel she would have needed to be interviewed in a thorough investigation?
Yes, because although there's lots of lawyers on the Judiciary Committee, a number of skilled former prosecutors, that's not the same thing as being questioned by an FBI agent and then using the leads or the information developed there to pursue follow-ups. Most importantly, Dr. Ford offered corroborating evidence, witnesses who she said could come forward and testify to the FBI that she had shared with them her story, her side of this alleged high school assault months or years before Judge Kavanaugh was nominated for the Supreme Court. I think that would have been important for us to hear in the Senate.
Does this reflect on the FBI? The failure?
No.
No? Who does it reflect on?
In my view, the FBI works as the client of the White House on a background investigation and pursuant to a scope. They should have gotten, I believe they got, a document from White House counsel that interpreted the direction of the Senate Judiciary Committee and gave them a scope. So it's a combination of things. The Senate Judiciary Committee or the Republican majority in the Senate sends something to the White House counsel, who sends it to the FBI. I know from public statements that Senators Murkowski and Collins and Flake were expressing their hope that this would be a broader investigation that was followed by President Trump making repeated public statements that the FBI would be allowed to do what they do and pursue leads. And in the end, if this is, 8, 9, or 10, as we've just discussed, there's a number of vital witnesses who were not questioned. I do think, though, John, this still sends an important message. What Senator Flake and I were trying to do last Friday, just one day after the riveting testimony of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and the forceful testimony of Judge Kavanaugh, was to hit the pause button and to show both Judge Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford the respect of having their allegations and their defense investigated by the FBI.
All right, 2 specifics quickly, if I can. Republicans on the Judiciary Committee put out a tweet that said nowhere in any of these 6 FBI reports, they're talking about the first 6 background checks, which the committee has reviewed on a bipartisan basis, was there ever a whiff of any issue at all related in any way to inappropriate sexual behavior or alcohol abuse. 8 Democratic members of your committee, but not you, have sent a letter saying that statement is not true. It's not true, they say, there is no whiff of alcohol abuse. Do you know why Democrats sent this letter, and why didn't you sign it?
First, I wasn't aware of that letter until after it was sent. It was drafted, circulated to staff counsel on the committee, and then sent fairly quickly. I became aware of it literally last night while doing a television interview. I am trying to get in contact with the principal author and understand exactly which issue he's referring to. I was not a member of the Senate during 2004, 2006, when Judge Kavanaugh was before the Senate, and there were previous background investigations. So I'm not going to speak to it right now, having not read the background. I'll just say that I think it is important that members of the judiciary be heard on this issue. I have not joined every letter at all times because I'm frankly trying to work across the aisle on this issue.
And they're only 24 hours in a day, and you're working about 28 hours a day right now. Last question, Jamie Roche, who is a Yale roommate of Brett Kavanaugh, came on TV last night and says he knows that Judge Kavanaugh lied under oath to the U.S. Senate when he testified about terms that he used back when he was in high school and college, and when he testified about whether or not he blacked out. Jamie Roche says he's 100% sure that Judge Kavanaugh lied. Is that important, and is that something that should have been investigated by the FBI?
I've heard from a number of classmates of Judge Kavanaugh's who tried repeatedly to reach the FBI, tried by reaching out to Judiciary Committee members or the White House or the FBI to be questioned, and were not, and are very disappointed in that and concerned. I do think this is one route for those who are concerned to get that information in front of senators. Ultimately, we are the decision makers. An FBI investigation is a professional, credible way to get facts assessed and in front of us. But in the end, senators themselves have to weigh this information. And I do think it is critical that we weigh whether or not Judge Kavanaugh was truthful to the committee, because frankly, I think both his temperament and his truthfulness are critical indicators of his fitness to serve on the Supreme Court.
Chris Coons of Delaware, thanks very much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Okay, John, they say they never liked